Hey all, here OS Reviews. Recently we checked out the Music Public Kingdom TT270, which was a full-sized record player under $100 that is significantly better sounding than the models from Crossley and Victrola, other low-cost suitcase-style players. Well, today we're taking a look at another model from the same brand, but this is a tiny version. It's a lot cheaper, the sound quality is probably not going to be quite as good, but it's more meant as a novelty item. It sells for just around $35, which is incredibly cheap, but it also claims to be the world's smallest mini suitcase turntable. Now, because of how small it is, this one does not play back full-size 12-inch records. It only supports 7-inch records, which are smaller discs. It has a less storage capacity, essentially, so it doesn't have the ability to play back, say, an entire album, but rather it's usually only 2 or 3 songs. So it can play one song in the front, and you flip it over, and there's another song in the back. Here's a snippet of what it looks like. Very cute, and could be kind of an interesting decor even if you aren't using it to play back music all the time. Although unfortunately this model doesn't have built-in Bluetooth, so you can't use it as a wireless Bluetooth speaker, which is a secondary feature that many of the other models have. But again, because of how cheap it is, it's forgivable. You can change the playback speed between the standard 33 and 45 rotations per minute. It also has what they claim as a Japanese high-sensitivity ceramic cartridge or stylus. That's a tiny little needle that is sitting and basically reading back the vinyl and producing the sound. Tiny size next to a smartphone, you can get an idea of how small this thing is. Smaller than even some laptop computers. About the size of a lunchbox that kids maybe would bring to school. So inside of the packaging, we have the mini record player itself, the TT251. Then we've got the AC adapter, which is also super tiny and small. The prong, just like from the 270, can be removed if you want to switch it to different adapters from around the world. They give you actually a separate little box filled with various adapter tips. Then there's simply a quick warranty card as well as a user manual that's pretty well documented. Taking a closer look at the design, it really is adorable because of how tiny it is. If you like other tiny products like retro-styled projectors, mini arcade machines, maybe even mini appliances, it kind of fits into that entire aesthetic. We have simply a handle on the front, which is used to carry it around. The back here features the hinges, which are chrome, which is the very simple specs inside. The feet on the back here are coated in a soft touch material that prevents it from sliding around on a surface, and that's pretty much it. The speakers are inside, and you'll only see them when you open up the briefcase. Speaking of, this is what it looks like with it opened up, and here is a smartphone next to it for comparison's sake. So again, just very compact. We also have the company's logo, which is engraved on the top of the suitcase. It's still made out of a felt material inside. Moving down here, we have the logo once again, and then we have an elevated speaker, which again they claim is stereo, although the design kind of makes it look like a mono speaker, but perhaps there are 2 drivers inside coming out from that one side. We've got access to a 3.5mm headphone jack to connect to external headphones or speakers, and there's also a knob that you can twist on to turn it on and to adjust the volume. Again, all the parts here are made out of plastic compared to metal on the larger TT270, which is their flagship model. We also have the AC adapter port on the side here, which is a slightly strange placement. I think I would have preferred if they popped this port onto the side of the briefcase. That would have made the cable management a bit more tidy. The arm system here is constructed out of plastic, but overall it is still functional, of course, and we need to physically lift it up from this platform by exerting a little bit of force. That part is a bit more delicate, and you have to be a bit more careful to prevent scratching the record, for instance, whenever you're setting it down and raising it yourself. We also have kind of a silicone material or a mat that prevents the record from sliding around or damaging itself when it's spinning, and then the plate here is of course still made out of plastic. But overall, it is a pretty tight and again, very picturesque presentation. Let's pop the record right on top there. And as we kind of move it over, it begins to spin automatically. We move it to the edge, it stops spinning, so this part is done just like any record player. We can change the speed here, and when we are satisfied, we can just set it down and it will begin playing automatically. Now, it doesn't have any smart features like automatically stopping when it reaches the end of a record, so when the needle moves all the way in, it will keep on spinning, so you do have to keep an eye out and kind of stop it yourself. But otherwise, the playback experience itself is pretty smooth and not half bad. It doesn't wobble too much, which is good, as long as you're on a flat surface. Now, the only cons that I can really say is the quality of the loudspeaker here is not really the best. It sounds a little bit tinny, a little bit distorted, especially as you crank up the volume, and just not very full sounding, not very rich, which is kind of expected on a unit that's so small and so inexpensive. Again, 35 bucks. So the quality there isn't the best. I really would recommend plugging in your own headphones or connecting to better external speakers, wired speakers, if you want to improve on the listening experience. Now, of course, because it's so small, you can see an edge or portion of the record is also leaning off from the edge of the briefcase, so it doesn't fit completely inside. You can't close it up when it's playing, otherwise you'll kind of cut off the record from spinning. So just like the larger design, if you pop in the disc, you have to keep it open and it kind of spills over, which gives it a very cool aesthetic. I use the adapter here. Let's try popping in a disc that has a slightly larger center hole, as you can see there. So again, the sound itself does get reasonably loud, it's just a little bit on the thin side, but the playback itself is at least fairly consistent, not a lot of popping or unevenness, oftentimes in the form of a wobble or a sound that is similar to a vibrato, kind of out of control, out of tune or pitch, that you sometimes find with lower cost units. On this, it's actually doing a pretty consistent job. Although the quality here is not as good as the TT270 when it comes to the speakers, as well as the stylus tip, and some of the extra features like the auto raise and lower for the arm, the bare bone experience, the construction quality of the Suitcase are all surprisingly good for a fraction of the price. So if you're trying to add a inexpensive decoration to a room, but also can be used to occasionally play back some 7-inch records, this is not a bad choice. Or as a potential gift, something that's kind of interesting, a little bit different, more analog, and a throwback to the old days in this ever-accelerating digital world, this might be an interesting idea to consider. So you can check out more details if you are interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Music Public Kingdom TT251 super tiny, world's smallest briefcase record player.